Okay. Naftali, can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay, beautiful. You're the only one on there online. We have Next Gen over here. I'm just trying to find the place we finished yesterday. Next Gen means next generation. That's you guys.
So I think we're at the Mishnah.
Mishnah, middle of the page.
Yeah.
Moshe Chaim wants you to know he's here. Okay. Okay. So we're in the middle of Mem Nun Ches. We have to do Nun Tes. So let's get going. It's not as much fun today as the last 2 days with Agaditan. First, let's thank Hashem for giving us the ability and the chance to learn, also the chance for me to teach. Also, let's learn the memory of Zava Godabas Baruch Ben Yamin, thank you, and Nisan Yozev Ben Tzion, also for Shlema to Druin's father, Gedalia Getzel Ben Gedal Getzel Eliezer Ben Tzipara Freda Tzipara, some of that. And anybody else that needs for Shlemas, also please bring back the hostages to the Naza, and let's have a swift winning of this war. It should never be a war that's is being threatened to Israel. Okay, so we're going to start the middle of the daf. It says, "Hi Moshe, Umazmin Ladina." Smazmin, no, hold on. Yeah, by the Mishnah, I'm trying to pull it up here. Translation. Okay, Hamarzev ein lo chazaka. So Hamarzev ein lo chazaka, v'yesh komo chazaka. Hamas, could you please, Moshe, can you mute your end? He doesn't hear
I'll
me.
check it out.
I'll have to do it. Moshe, I don't know how to mute everyone. Let's see if I. Okay. Well, hopefully, eventually, Moshe will realize, and if he looks at me, he'll. Okay. Hamazav ein lo chazaka, b'yeshlim kamo chazaka, hamazchila yesh lo chazaka. Okay, so we're talking about the gutters, all right, for a house. On a roof, all right, we have a gutter that goes across the roof. Oh, yeah, let me see the picture there, because I want to see if I'm going to be explaining it right. Hold on. Exactly where I was. All right, just show you a picture here, if you can see that. Basically, we all have it here in Florida. Well, most of us have it. I know I should have it. Is we have a gutter that goes along just under the roof ledge. All right, and it's there to catch the water that comes down from the roof, and then it goes further. The gutter is shaped like a U towards the ground, and so that it doesn't flood your the base right by your house at the foundation. You then have this little curb, kind of accordion shaped spout that leaves away on the land. Moshe, I hope you can mute yourself when you realize it. Okay, so what it's saying here is the marziv, which is the spout, the drain spout, doesn't have a chazaka. All right. So the homeowner will place the drain spout in a way that it came over his to his fellow's courtyard. All right. And then Moshe.
Yeah.
You need to mute. Thank you. Okay. V'yeshlim kama chazaka. All right. One more time, because it was a little confusing. It's saying that the gutter itself that goes along the house, all right, it has a chazaka. Hamaschila yeshlo chazaka. Okay, and we'll explain what that means. But the spout that goes away into the ground, it doesn't have a chazaka. Again, what do we mean by that? But it does, its place has a chazaka. What do we mean? We mean that the guy put this up on his house. It's draining into his neighbor's courtyard. And it's been doing this for 3 years, but the neighbor never complained. Why? He's been taking advantage of the water. He has free sprinkler system from his for his crops, for his plants, whatever, for his grass from his neighbor's roof. All right. So, and we'll go to this in detail in the Gemara. Next case in the Mishnah. Shulam Mitzri ain lo chazaka. An Egyptian ladder has no chazaka. Egyptian ladder is basically a small step stool. It's less than 4 steps. It's what you typically might have in the closet or in the garage and then take into the kitchen if you have to reach to a higher shelf. All right. There's no chazaka. Oh, my neighbor left the step stool outside. I'm not going to complain about it. Let him leave it there. He leaves it there for 3 years. He doesn't get a chazaka for that it could stay there permanently because the owner of the courtyard is not going to complain about that. Well, sorry, yesh lo chazaka. But the Tyrian ladder, which is a much larger ladder, and the Gemara will explain, that has a chazaka, meaning that if he leaves it there and the other person doesn't complain, there's a chazaka that it stays there. All right? And later on, we'll learn that you can only have a chazaka in the place where the other person can make a complaint. If there's no way he can make a complaint, you don't really have the chazaka. But again, we'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on. Now, the Mishnah defines in an Egyptian window. Interesting. The Mishnah doesn't go and define the difference in the ladders. It's just going to define an Egyptian window. And it's basically because they're not arguing about the ladders. An insignificant step stool, nobody's arguing about that it doesn't have a chazaka because it's nothing. It's like your kid's toy you left out there. You know, your neighbor says get rid of it, you pull it in. Or one of these days your kid will pull it in, or you'll pull it in. All right. But a larger ladder your neighbor would complain about. All right. So what is this Chalan Mitzri? What is this Egyptian window? It's such a small window that the head of a person cannot go into that window. It's a real tiny window. So what can be used for? It can only be used for 2 things, either to let light in, all right, from like a skylight, but on the side of the house, or it's basically a giant peephole. Let's say the guy wants to watch things outside while he's got animals grazing somewhere. We said earlier on he could even leave animals grazing. He wants to check on them. He wants to check on his kids out in the courtyard or his grandkids. He just look out the window. But it's not a picture window or large window like we think of windows to look out and for people to look in. All right. Rabbi Yehuda qualifies the ruling that an Egyptian window has no chazaka. So why does Chalan Mitzri have no chazaka? Meaning it's so insignificant. Rabbi Yehuda says, in yesh lo malbein, if the window has a window frame, if the guy goes through all the work that he doesn't just punch out a hole in his wall, but he literally makes a window, puts a frame, a real nice frame, plaster frame, this and that, a wooden frame. All right. That actually does have chazaka, even though it's such a small window. Why? Because he's putting so much work into it. He obviously intends for this to be there for a while, to look nice, and he wants it. So he's putting importance to that window. Now let's go. The Gemara is starting. All right, we're going to go over the situations, the cases we just said. What did we mean that the drain spout, that little flexible accordion-like C-shaped PVC pipe that comes from the gutter that's coming down the house, that it doesn't have a chazaka, but its place has a chazaka. It's a strange description, so we're going to explain what that means. If the drain spout itself must be removed, what's the practical consequence of its chazaka has its place? So you're going to say, if the guy has to remove it, then what are you telling me? But its place has a chazaka. All right. Again, we're not understanding it. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. I'm a Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Hachi Kamar. This is what the Mishnah is saying. So he's explaining. Hamazev ein lo chazaka. All right. The mazev, again, the drain spout, doesn't have chazaka meruach achas. All right. He's saying from one particular side. But its place has a chazaka mishtei ruchas. Again, let's imagine one side of a roof, all right? And there's this gutter that goes across to catch the rainwater, all right? Well, it usually doesn't stop at one end and then go down the other end. It goes down both ends. It's like a U-shaped. And then the marzeves, you would attach to both ends or whatever. So he's saying that the marzev doesn't have a chazaka, that if the owner of the field says, I don't want you to let it drain from this end, all right? He can force him, the owner of the house with the gutters, to close that end, but the guy could still use this gutter flow at the other end. So he has the right to continue using the gut, I don't know what to call it, the marzev or the gutter release or whatever it is, all right, the accordion type piece, all right, to go out. Okay, and that's what we mean by its place has a chazaka. Rabbi Chanina Amar, Rabbi Chanina says, this is a second answer, Hamazev ein lo chazaka, the marzev itself doesn't have a chazaka, Shimiya arach bikatzro, because if the drain spout was very long, let's say the guy, once it came down and it turned, he had it going 6 feet into the yards, all right, mikatzro, all right, he could still shorten that. He could shorten it to 5 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet. But its place has a chazaka, Shim Baal La'akro, which means if the neighbor who didn't want it wants to come out and entirely say, get rid of this, I want this removed, Ein Akro, he's not allowed to remove it. So we now have two different explanations so far, what it means that the marzev has no chazaka, but its place has a chazaka. Now comes the third explanation or interpretation. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says, Hamazev ein lo chazaka. What does it mean that the marzev has no chazaka? Shimratza libnas tachtav, that if the neighbor wishes to build beneath the drain spout, bona, he may build there, all right? But its place has a chazaka, shimba la'akro, and this means that if the neighbor wishes to remove the drain spout entirely, ein la'akro, he cannot remove it. Now this just jumped on me. I believe that was talking about where the drain was actually, it wasn't PVC pipe or simple, it was actually a cement gutter. And then the guy says, if you're going to build, all the building is going to cause, reverberations and movement, and it's going to break my gutter and all that stuff. So that's what we're talking. A third explanation. We're now at the top of Nuntes Amud Aleph, where we should be today. So we're just 17 minutes late. Let's go. Tzan, we learned in the Mishnah, Hamazchila yesh lo chazaka. A gutter has a chazaka. Again, that's the long one, the gutter on the roof side, all right, and coming down. Bishlama lamandama hanach tarte shapir. That's perfect in according to either one of the Amorim, Shmuel and Reb Chanina, who advanced those first two interpretations, not the third one. Elalamandamab, according to the one Reb Yirmiyah who said Shimratza livnas tachtav bona, who the last thing we said, if the guy wants to build below, he can build. All right. the owner of the courtyard may not build underneath it. My nafkale mina. Oh, I just said this. What's the difference? Does it make to the owner of the gutter whether the owner of the courtyard builds underneath the gutter? He's not harmed by this in any way. The Gemara answers, Hacham b'mazhila shel binyan askinan. All right, this is why I just said the Mishnah is dealing with the gutter of stone construction. In such a case, once a chazaka has been established that that's allowed, the neighbor can be barred from building below the gutter. The Amai says, it's not acceptable for me, the Sisra Ashisoi, because it'll damage my gutter's walls. Again, the cement and the building, when they do this, will damage the established gutter that's there. All right. Now, so the Mishnah teaches that a chazaka can be established, allowing a person to channel water into a neighbor's property. Just reading here. The Gemara now addresses the question of whether the neighbor can in turn establish a chazaka, giving him the right to prevent the flow of water into his land from being interrupted. All right, so this is kind of a whole new question. Rabbi Yehuda Mashmul. Rabbi Yehuda said name Shmuel. There's a pipe belonging to one person, and it pours water from his roof into the courtyard of his neighbor. All right, it's basically initially a repeat of what we just said in the Mishnah. All right, and now the roof's owner. Now the guy who wants to close things down is not the owner of the courtyard, but the owner of the gutter, all right, the house itself. And he comes, Baal Hagag, the owner of the roof, and he wants to seal this pipe. He says, yeah, I don't want this gutter anymore. He says, the owner of the courtyard now can come and make a claim against him. He says, oh, no way. I let you have this for 3 years. You want to know why? Because it was advantage to me too. I got free watering from it. I saved money on the water bill. I got my plants to grow, my field to grow, my water trough to fill up for my animals to drink. The bottom line is I have benefits. So I'm telling you, just like you have benefit, I have benefit. I don't want you to close it up. Just as you acquired a right for it in my courtyard, because all right, lemishta Bay Maya, to let the water go out into my courtyard. I also acquired the rights of the water from your roof. So therefore, you have no right to interrupt the water's flow. Interesting twist here. Now the owner of the courtyard is making a claim against the owner of the house. You can't close it up. It's just the opposite of the cases before. All right. Rabbi Tamar, so the Gemara is going to cite a dispute from elsewhere regarding this very point. Rabbi Itamar, it was stated by Rabbi, I guess. Itamar was stated. Rabbi Yoshia Amar, Rabbi Yoshia said, Ma'akev, the courtyard's owner can prevent the owner of the roof gutter and the pipe from sealing the pipe. Rabbi Chama Amar, second Rabbi, Rab Chama, the father of Rab Oshia. All right, we just mentioned Rab Oshia. Now his father comes along and he says, Eino Makev, the courtyard's owner cannot prevent the owner from the pipe sealing it. So here you have one Rav who says he can. His father comes along and says he can't. Now comes the opinion of Rabisa, who's the father of Rabbi Chama. So now comes the grandfather who has an opinion. All right, says Ozo Shaile Rabbi Bisa. All right, they went and asked Rabbi Bisa for his opinion. All right, so they asked the Zaidi here, the grandfather, for his opinion. Amalahu, he said to them, Akev, the owner of the courtyard can't prevent the owner of the pipe from sealing it. He can say, keep the water going. So it's very interesting. You have here being brought 3 opinions from actually 2 are the same, a grandson, a father, and a grandfather. But what a family. All right, these are all Rabbeim. All right, so Karayale Rabbi Bachama. Rabbi Bachama applied the following verse to him. All right, so what did he say? Again, he's applying it, I think, to the 3rd Rav Rabisa. No, Rabisa is the grandfather. But he's saying Rabbi Barchama applied the following verse. All right, so we have this in Koheles that the three tied cord doesn't rip so easy. In other words, and he's saying it here in this family, you've got three generations of Rabbeim, right? This is obviously a very rabbinical and traditional family. Things are passed down. So we're going to go by the third opinion because he's learned very well from above. I think that's what it means. There, Rabbi Yoshia. This refers to Rabbi Oshaya. Benosha Rabbi Chama, the son of Rabbi Chama, who's the Benosha Rabbi Bisa. All right, the son of Rabbi Bisa. In other words, he's the three tied cord. The Gemara cites the next section of the Mishnah. Are you joining us, or are you just walking around the whole morning? Sulam HaMitzri Ein Lo Chazaka. We said that the Egyptian ladder, that tiny little step, so doesn't have a chazaka. So now the Gemara is going to define what this Egyptian ladder is. What is this Egyptian ladder? Amru Devei Rabbi Yanai. So it was taught in the academy of Rabbi Yanai. Kol shein lo arba chavakim. Any ladder that doesn't have four rungs. And basically, that's the typical step stool. All right, you go in the hardware store, go Home Depot, Lowe's, this and that, say you want to buy a step stool, you open up, there's usually only three prongs to it, or three rungs or two rungs. It's not made for heights to go up to windows, to go up, to roofs. All right. Now, Chalan Mitzri, Ein Ze Chazaka. When we said in the Mishnah that the Egyptian window doesn't have a chazaka, but a Tyrian Chalan Tsuri has a chazaka. The Gemara, well, that's what's said there. We're going back to the Sulam. Maishna Gabi Sulam. What's the difference between the two ladders? The Lo Mefarish. Why doesn't the Mishnah go into defining that difference? We just mentioned it right now in the Gemara that it's the difference of four rungs or more, but or three rungs or less would be the Sulam Mitzri. But the Mishnah never really went into it. It just went into the difference in the windows. So the Gemara is now asking, Maishna Gabe Sulam Delo Mefarish. What's different about the window? All right, excuse me, about the ladders, that the Mishnah didn't go into defining the differences. But when it came to the windows, the Mishnah went into quite a discussion of how the windows were different. Are you with us? You're like in another world here. All right. You need a cup of coffee? You want my water? You all right? Okay. Mishrim Bekabai if Luge Rabbi Yehuda B'Seifa. The Tana defined an Egyptian window only because he wished to include the dissenting opinion of Rabbi Yehuda in the final clause of the Mishnah. In order to demonstrate that Rabbi Yehuda refers to an Egyptian window, therefore you had to define what an Egyptian window was. All right, because remember in the Mishnah it said, but Egyptian window that has a frame, that's okay. That would have a chazaka, unlike just a punch hole in the wall to just look out there. Amri Rab Zera. Rab Zera said, Lamata biaba amas. The Rab Zera is going to say something else. Where is the window located? If the window was open at a height of less than 4 amas, so he's saying less than 6 feet, the top of the window, all right, so that's basically a window. Then anyone could just walk around in the house, just look right out. It's like all windows. Yesh lo chazaka. Those windows have a chazaka, assuming that the owner of the next courtyard didn't right away make a claim and say, hey, don't put a window there. Therefore, at any time during the first 3 years, the neighbor can come and protest the presence of such a window. Lamala miyarba amas, but if the window was open at a height of more than 4 amas from the ground, ein lo chazaka. So if you notice, there's some houses, there's one right across the street, where there's these long windows typically, or short windows, or whatever you see in some other houses, that they're above. If you're standing in a person's living room, you can't look out the window. They're up above, almost like skylights, but they're not ceiling height. to let light into the house. So those windows don't have a chazaka. They're just uh, because the guy wouldn't bother his neighbor for making a hole in the wall so he has light in the house. He doesn't want his neighbor to live in the dark. All right. So that's why it doesn't have a chazaka, the window. Again, you can only have a chazaka where you have the other side being able to make a claim against it. If the guy wouldn't make a claim against it, then it could never have a chazaka. It's just something we keep on saying, but we don't really think about it. All right. Therefore, so the neighbor can't protest the window that's above 4 amas. Something good happened. You sing quiet. You're smiling. What's going on here, Leo? It's good. Everything all right? You got married last night? Something? I don't know. Okay. Rabbi Ela said, "Afilu lamala miyaba amos." Even if the window was open at a height of higher than 4 amas, ain't lo chazaka. Oh, so this is different from what we just said. According to Rabbi Ela, if the window was made to let the light in above 6 feet, above 4 amas, it still doesn't have a chazaka. Granted, it has no chazaka, the yachol limchas, but the neighbor can protest such a window. Now, we just said previously the neighbor would not protest the window that's above 6 feet because it's not a window that someone would look out. It's not an invasion of privacy, which cheskes riyah, which is not allowed, and everyone agrees. So, you know what's going on here. Hold on a second. Is anyone listening? Oh, we do have participants. Oh, Chaim's on. Naftali, Eliezer. Oh, good. I didn't realize all you guys are listening.
We're listening, Randy.
Okay. All right. If you have any questions, just let me know. All right.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay, thank you. I lost the picture now. I don't even know where you are. Okay. All right. The Gemara attempts to define the point of contention between the disputants. Lema b'chafin amida stam. All right. Let's say they're arguing about whether or not we coerce people not to emulate the midah of stam. So what's the midah of stam? Stam were such rotten scoundrels that if just because it was good for somebody else, even if it didn't make any difference to the other guy, they would complain about it. Now, we just said, like in the first case, the guy put up a window to have light. All right. He needs light. It's really not bothering his neighbor at all. But if they were in stum, they would complain. They go, City Hall, hey, the guy didn't have a permit. Get rid of that Sulam Mitzri that's up there, 7 feet above the ground. Why? Why would you even do it? That's called Midah Stum. All right. So we don't want Jews to act like this. What? A bud? Bud Light. This is a PG class, but they don't know what Bud Light is. Okay. Demar Sava Kofin. All right. One person holds that the master, we do coerce people. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right? The Marsaba Kofin, one master holds that we do coerce people not to be like Stum. Or Marsaba Ein Kofin. This is the first way we can explain. And one person says we don't coerce people not to be like not to be like have the Mida, this horrible character of Stum. This I don't want that guy to have anything good, even if it doesn't affect me. Now, this is not necessarily correct. Lo de kuliyama kofin. Nah. It is possible that in the opinion of all, we feel and we coerce people, meaning Yidden, not to emulate the behavior of Stum. Actually, it's not just Yidden. We tell people you shouldn't act like that. That's not the right way to act for any decent human being. It's not decency. So why is this case different? Because a neighbor can say to him, the one that wants to open the window, Zimin the Masfe Shashifa Tutach. At times you might put the one who owns the courtyard, who doesn't want the guy to have his little window, all right, even though it's not a regular vision length, he says, you know what, I don't know, but you might sometimes take that bench that's in your house and you might slip it right under the window, stand up on the bench and look out the window. All right. And you know, you do that, you're going to be invading my privacy. All right. The kaimat, the car chazis, and you can stand on it and you look out. All right. So he's not really saying this because of me to stum. He's saying it because he has good reason to make his claims. The Gemara recites a related, and that's why he wanted it sealed. The Gemara cites a related incident. So let's see if we can learn from that whether or not he is right to do this. You're looking at me so strange. I don't know what's going on. Everything okay? I don't know. Hilo is like in a different world today. I don't know. He's like, wow. Ahuda asa the kamei Rabbi. Everything's all right, right? What? No, I am about 5 lines from the bottom. All right, I'm not up to the mission yet. Ahuda asa the kamei the Rabbi Yami. There was a certain man, a neighbor, who sought to prevent his other neighbor from having a window higher than 4 amas. So he came before Rav Ami. So he came in front of Rav Ami. Shadre lekame the Rabbi Abba Mamo. Rav Ami sent the man to Rav Abba Mamo. Amalei. He instructed Rav Abba, Avidlei Rabbi Eliezer, decide the law in accordance with the view of Rav Ila'a. In other words, don't let him open the window. Right. The Gemara states that this is an exception to the Mishnah's ruling that a small window has no chazakah, because that's what we said before. Shmuel says, ora, but if the window was open to provide light for a dark room, afilu kol shehu yesh lo chazakah. It was the maskana here from that Mishnah is that as long as the window was made there so that person living in that house can have some light to look in, all right, that it's meant to be permanent. That's why he put it there, all right? And even though it's meant to, and that's why it has a chazakah, and the other guy should not, if he did not complain about from the beginning, after 3 years would have no complaint, or something like that. Let's go on. Next Mishnah. I want to be up to date for Sunday, which will include Shabbos. Aziz, a beam that protrudes from a neighbor's courtyard at tefach, at least a tefach. So you've got a guy who has a house, all right? And he's got a beam sticking out of his roof, or not out of his roof, but actually out of his wall, all right? And it goes a tefach, which is a fist, into his neighbor's property. Now, initially, I said, what is this, a zero property line? Like the house is right up to the guy's property, and he's got this little thing sticking out like in these, we have some homes here that are Southwest style, like homes where you actually, they have these little beams sticking out of these rooms. You see, I know it's still left. I used to see one on 159th Street. It's a certain style of architecture. All right. So I said, what's going on? And then I realized that's not what the Mishnah is saying here. I don't think. I think the guy still set foot 6 feet back, let's say, from the property line, but he's got this long laundry pole, all right, that sticks out because that's where he hangs up his laundry, and it goes over the fence line, a tefach, into the other guy's property. That would make sense because that's really what it says. The Mishnah is talking about it, that this beam ziz goes at least 1 tefach into the neighbor's property. All right, neighbor didn't complain. He has a chazakah that he can leave it there. I think that's what it means. But the courtyard owner can protest the initial placement of the beam. If it, wait, but he can protest it. All right, so excuse me. The Gemara explains below that while using the beam, its owner can gaze into court with him. All right, we'll get into that later. Okay, so if it's more than the tefach, he has a chazakah, But if he has a chazaka again, that means the other guy can contest it. We mentioned that that's how chazakas work. Chazaka only comes with where there's a contention. All right. Pachas mitefach. But what if it only goes out 2-3 inches into the guy's courtyard? Ain't lo chazaka. He doesn't have a chazaka for that to stick there. So he actually, the owner of their courtyard can say, "Hey, you need to saw this off right here. I'm raising my fence. You need to saw it off there." Ain't lo chazaka. Then yacho limchas. Oh no, I take that back. And he cannot protest. If it doesn't have a chazaka, the other guy can't protest. So if it only sticks out a couple inches, but not a tefach into his neighbor's courtyard, the other guy can't protest and say, "Hey, cut it off," because it's so insignificant. And because it has no chazaka, he can't protest. He can only protest when there's a chazaka. That's how these things always pair up. All right, let's go into the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Amar Rav Mani. Rabbi Yossi said, "Name Rav Mani. Show me the money." He said, Amar Ilah. And some say Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rav Mani. And some say Rabbi Yaakov said in the name of Rav Mani. Hechazik b'tefach. If one established a chazaka for a beam of 1 tefach, they're kind of repeating what we just said. Hechazik ba'arba. But listen what it says in this other place. He established a chazaka for 4 tvachim. So initially, we don't know what does that mean. Does that mean the first question is that if it goes out 1 fistful into the neighbor's yard, that he can add 3 more fistfuls, so that the pole's going, 4 tvachim. He's taking a 2x4. He cut it in half because they come in 8-foot lengths, and he's saying, I actually can have a 4 feet of a 2x4 sticking into my neighbor's yard. Because a 2x4, the 4 inches is a tefach right there. So he's got a tefach thickness, and then it started, whatever it is. It's no big deal. All right. The bottom line is that doesn't even make sense. The Gemara is puzzled by this cryptic statement. They should have called Rav Bana because he knew all the answers. If you were learning yesterday's stories for cryptic stuff. All right. What? Excuse me? Oh, is that what it is? Oh, it's not 2 inches by 4 inches in the width? Yeah, I know it's always off. Oh, see that's my wife does the building. I just do the buying. Okay, thanks. My comma, pay no attention to this man behind the screen. My comma, what did Ramani say? Why should the beam's owner have a chazaka greater than that which was actually established? So we're going to explain what this arba, what he meant by he can extend it for tvachim. Amar Abaye. So Abaye said, Hachikama. This is what Rav Mani said. Hechazik rochav tefach. If the beam's owner established a chazaka for a width of 1 tefach, the meshech arba at a length of 4 tvachim. So what he's saying is that it stuck out a tefach, but actually this was a ledge, like an awning, that extended 4 tvachim. So just imagine, it's not just a pole that's going out into the neighbor's lawn, airspace for a tefach, but it's he actually has 4 tvachim worth, all right, going out of it. Hechazik baruch Abba. So he's automatically established a chazaka for the width of 4 tvachim. That's what he's talking about, I think. Pachas mitefach. But if it extended only a couple inches, ein lo chazaka, then yechol limchas. Then he doesn't have the chazaka. He can have it 4 tvachim, all right, in width extending over a couple inches into the airspace of his neighbor, all right, and the other guy can't protest, the owner of the courtyard. So Amarim argue over the identity of the subject of the last ruling. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna said, Lo shanu ela ba'al hagag b'ba'al hachatzir. Right? They taught only that the owner of the roof from which the beam protruded may not protest against the owner of the courtyard. All right? So we thought all along that it was the owner, because we said previously we were talking about the owner of the courtyard protesting against the owner of the roof when he wanted to seal up the gutter. All right. Because he said, you seal that up, I have rights too. I've been using this water. You're stopping my water rights. So he's saying you can't seal this. All right. So he's saying, no, now these guys here, they're building walls within the tefach at the end of the table, not paying any attention to the Gemara. Yeah. But the owner of the courtyard may protest against the owner of the roof. All right. If the latter attempts to project a beam even less than the tefach over his courtyards. So we're saying here that the owner of the courtyard can protest. Now, what's the dissenting opinion? Rabbi Yehuda says, Afilo boa chatzir b'boa hagag eno yechol limchas. He's saying, no, the owner of the courtyard can't protest against the owner of the roof. So the Gemara is going to attempt to explain what's this point of contention? What exactly are they arguing about? Are we talking about the whole question of visual trespass? Hezek Re'iyah. All right? Hezek Re'iyah means you're causing damage. How are you causing damage? By being a peeping Tom, by looking where you're not supposed to look. Yesterday we talked about the guy can't go down by the riverside, right? Because he shouldn't look at the women doing the laundry there. All right. So it's a big thing to us. Again, I like listening every day to the thing that comes on WhatsApp Vayama'in, and I recommend it to anyone who doesn't. 2 minutes at different rabbis day telling us why we shouldn't look at things we shouldn't look at. That was yesterday's. All right. All right. The Masava Shmei. All right. So you finally did it. All right. The Masava Shmei. Thank you. As one master. Okay. Rehuda. The Masava Shmei Hezek. One master, meaning Rav Huna, permitted the owner to protest, meaning that he felt this was a Hezek Riyah. It was the danger of looking at something you weren't supposed to be looking at, and that was invasion of privacy. And the other says, meaning Rabbi Yehuda, that it's that visual trespass is not, meaning just the fact that you look at it doesn't cause damage. The Gemara rejects this. It says, nah, this is no good. No, this is not necessarily true. Everyone agrees visual trespass is considered damage. All right. We do not believe it's okay to look where you're not supposed to be looking. Period. So what's different here? The for the roof owner can say to the courtyard owner, I didn't make this tiny little beam. This little beam is unsuitable for normal use. I can't go out and stand on it to look out into your courtyard. All right. This is not a veranda. All right. Outside of my window that I could stand in spazier, just look and, visually look out, put out a coffee table, have my coffee, and me a porch out there, the veranda. And, the second apartment that my wife and I had here in Florida was beautiful. It was on the fourth floor. The reason we got it and we got so cheap, it was a fourth floor walk up on 41st Street, all right, in Miami Beach, before we moved up here. And the landlord couldn't rent it because nobody wanted to walk up 4 flights, but we were very young. And we walk up there and it was beautiful with a fireplace and half the roof we had the right to use. It was mamish, just a gorgeous apartment. And it actually had one of these like French doors that open up to a veranda. And we look over one of those creeks that would go there. It was on, I think it was Meridian. I'm not sure. Across the street on the other side was the shul there, Rabbi Shapiro's father's shul. All right. The Maichaze. So it wasn't that kind of, he's saying it's not that kind of ledge. It's just a tiny little ledge that's coming in. I'm only going to use it to hang objects. You know what? I do my laundry. Oh, remember yesterday we learned about the Chassid's table? and the ring at the end, because when they wash it, you have to hang it up. So he says, you know what? I'm a Talmid Chacham. I need to wash my laundry. He says, afterwards, I just toss it out the window, and then they didn't have dryers, and I just hang it up on this little ledge. All right? I'm not doing it to look, this or that. It's just a little ledge. So he says, Mahadarna apai. He says, and when I hang it out there, I'm not going to look. All right, I'm just going to stretch my arm out and put it out there, but I'm going to do it like this. All right, Talina Bay, hang the objects on it. So Rabbi Yehuda doesn't empower the courtyard owner to protest the projection of a small beam, since no visual trespass will result from its use, according to this interpretation. The Gemara inquires why Rav Huna rejects this reasoning. So that was Rabbi Yehuda. So why does Rav Huna not agree? The other disputing, why does Rav Huna lodge a protest? Gemara answers, Amalei, he could say back to the roof owner, Zimnan deve'isas. There's times when you'll be standing at the edge of your roof and bend over to hang things on a beam, and you might be afraid to lose your balance for a moment, all right? And you're not going to be able to turn your face, like you're saying, always to the other side, because now you're going to have to look to make sure you don't fall. He says, and when you do that, you're going to look into my courtyard at that second. And that's Hezekiah. You're not supposed to do that. So don't tell me that all the time you're not going to be looking this, that, because you never know when you will have to look. All right? Okay. The courtyard owner is therefore empowered to protest the projection of the beam. This is even the tiny beam. Since it is possible, they will suffer loss of privacy onto its account. Now we're up to the Mishnah. We're in the middle of Nun Tes Amud Beis. Okay. And we go weiter. We still have time. Lo yiftach adam chalonosav. A man may not open his window into a jointly owned courtyard. Lakach bayis b'chotzer acheres. So what if he bought another house in an adjoining courtyard? So let's imagine that you've got kind of a street, all right? And this house is facing each other along those streets. So they all share this courtyard because it's kind of a private street. But at the end of the street, all right, there's no more houses. It's just kind of a fence, and that's property that really was up for sale. It belonged to another set of courtyards, but that property, there's actually no property behind it. And one of the owners of the houses in this courtyard says, hey, you know what? I'd like a second house. I'm going to buy that land at the end of the street. I'm going to build a house. I'm going to open up a window into this courtyard too. So he says, he can't open it into the jointly owned courtyard. No. And as you bought it, you can open it to the next set of shutfin, or if it's cul-de-sac on the other side, but you can't open up into this side. Bana alaya agabi. So that's the first thing it says. So bana alayo agabi beso. What if he built an attic on top of his house? Lo yifchesna l'chatzeh shutfin. He can't open the attic onto a jointly owned courtyard. So he's saying, guess what? You can't open that. I don't know if he's talking about opening a window, or he's talking about opening it and then making a ladder that goes down into the courtyard. All right. But whatever it is, it's access to whoever's going to be living up there into the courtyard. Ela imratza, but if he wishes, bones a cheder lefnimi beso, then he may build a room within his house, uvona alayo agabe beso, or build an attic atop of his house with paschal asach beso and open it. Or he could take, let's say, he had a large room or a large attic. He can go and build a loft into it within his house, but he can't. So he can make extra rooms, but he can make it so that it opens up into the courtyard. So the Gemara, I'll go a little bit further and stop 2 minutes. Why does the Mishnah single out the case of opening windows onto a jointly owned courtyard. So why are you saying these? Do you have to be partners? It should be anybody's. He shouldn't be allowed to do that. Anyone's courtyard. The Tana formulates, according to the principle, that there's no need to state the more obvious case. There's no need to rule that one may not open windows onto a neighbor's courtyard, for damaging visual trespass will surely result. And we said that you're not allowed to do visual trespasses. But as far as for opening windows into jointly owned courtyards, the Amalei, where the person opening the courtyard can say to his partner, Suf, look, in any event, Hakar Bais, it's Tanui Mine B'Chatzeh. You know what? You just need to conceal what you're doing in your courtyard. All right, keep it private, baby. All right. So one might conclude that opening the windows would be permitted, since no additional visual trespass will result therefrom. In other words, you might think he could open his windows because the guy's got to be pretty relatively private what he does in the courtyard anyway. So his neighbor, the other townhome owner or his partner shouldn't be able to see. The Amalei, for the partner, could say to them, Ada Idna, up until now you didn't have the windows. It's Tanui Minach. I need to conceal myself only when you came out into the courtyard. Then I cover up this and that. I make sure you didn't see something that wasn't proper. Hashta, but now that you want to make the window afila b'beis nami in your house, beina, it's Tanui Minach. I need to conceal myself totally all the time from you, because I don't know, it's hard to see when you're in the daytime inside windows. I don't know when you're going to be looking or not looking around. All right, we'll stop here. Tana Rabbanan, which is 4 lines from the bottom. Continue Sunday morning, 6 o'clock. Everybody have a great Erev Shabbos, fantastic Shabbos.
Thank you very much. Have a good
yes,
Shabbos.
and today at 9:30, there's a bris and shul from Turkov's boy and Levi Turkov and his wife. I don't know his wife's name, but she had the baby. And please remember to press leave as you leave the shir.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Wish you mazel
Rennie.
tov for me.
See you guys. Take
Yeah.
care.
Have a good Shabbos.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.